plan, we wanted to do something a little bit different than we've done in the past, and that's to reach out to stakeholders that we don't usually do touch points with. Sometimes we'll coordinate on little things here and there, but typically we don't usually involve them within our MTP process. And so we want to make sure that we were getting as much feedback as possible and as much input to figuring out what it is that our county needs as far as transportation goes. And so we've had individual meetings with all of your groups throughout the process, introducing what the MPO is, what our MTP is, and what are potentially some of our challenges that we have. So this webinar is for a touch point geared to show you where we've taken some of your feedback and how we've introduced it into our plan, and also what we're doing after we do adopt this plan. What are some things that we're going to continue to study and analyze? So I have a quick presentation, and then we're also going to have some discussion. So let's start. Okay, great. So the discussion today is going to be an update of where we are with our Metropolitan Transportation Plan. We'll have a Q&A if you have any questions about what I'm sharing with you all. And then we're going to have a little bit of a lightning round with our individual groups that we have at the MPO and some of the studies that they're working on. And then at the end, we'll have a partner roundtable to see if there's anything that sparked any interest with all of the different things that you're going to see today. And before we get started, I see that Alex joined us. Good afternoon, Alex. Would you like to introduce yourself to the group today?
Sure, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Almanzar. I'm a researcher at the Metropolitan Center at Florida International University.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us today. So first up, what makes Broward great? And by what you can tell from the photos here on the slide is there's a lot of different things that make the county of Broward a really great place to be in. We have great beaches, we have the Everglades on one side, we have a new Stanley Cup winning team in Broward, and what you can kind of guess from all of that is that it's a secret that's not really well kept anymore. A lot of people know about Broward County and they want to be a little bit more a part of that county, of our county. So what does that mean? There's more people coming, which means potentially some more congestion. So how do we anticipate what we're going to be doing in the future with the existing conditions that we have now and what the expectation is for later? That's where our Metropolitan Transportation Plan comes in. So very quickly, who is the MPO and what is the MTP? Well, the MPO is a federally funded agency where our goal is to plan and prioritize transportation projects right now and into the future. Our MTP is something that we use to make a plan from now until the year 2050, and it gets updated every 5 years so that we can retake in all of the local communities' priorities. So our mission statement is to collaboratively plan, prioritize, and fund the delivery of diverse transportation options. And our vision statement is that our work will have measurable positive impact by ensuring transportation projects are well selected, funded, and delivered. And if those two things are enough information, you can pull out your phone and scan this QR code here, and it'll take you to our Broward MPO website where you can learn more about the different programs and initiatives that we're working on. The objectives of the Broward of the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, or the goals of the MTP, is something that we've collaborated with our local municipalities, with our partner agencies, so that we have them as guiding goals throughout all of the things that we work on. And they are to safely move people and goods, create jobs, and to foster resilient communities. The MTP itself is a document that we have to produce every 5 years based off of federal statutes. And it is a 25-year planning horizon that we use to put all the different funding sources that are available to us. So that's federal funding sources, state funding sources, and potentially some local funds where we can have a kind of one single document that shows what all the transportation investments are going to be. So what makes Route to 2050 different than all of the other MTPs that we've done in the past? Well, we have 4 emphasis areas that we've been working on as part of our plan, and they are safety, housing, resiliency, and technology. And each one of these 4 emphasis areas, when we go into our analysis, present their own individual challenges that we need to address, and also some opportunities. And we will walk through those right now. So the first one, safety, the challenge that we found, and this comes from a lot of the feedback that we've heard from you all, is safety is an issue on our roadways. Unfortunately, our deaths are going up. We're having a lot more crashes than we've had before, and we've adopted a goal to have zero deaths, zero crashes when it comes to fatalities and severe crashes, so incapacitating crashes. We want to make sure that every life is sacred, so we want to bring that down to zero. And by the chart that you see here on the screen, that's going a little bit more and more up. So we need
Christopher,
to
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but we just got another person join us, Dr. Ned Murray, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. Ned Murray here. Let me see if I can also show myself that I'm really here. Okay. Thank you very much for the invitation. Really look forward to this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Some other feedback that we heard, and something that we heard from our focus groups as well, we did a little bit of focus groups to kind of gauge the pulse of the public, is that people don't really have an opportunity to actively choose modal choice. When it comes to transportation, they feel like there's a reliance on cars. If we're doing all that kind of reliance on vehicles, we're not really getting the special kind of health benefits that come with walking or biking or taking transit, moving your body instead of relying on the car. So we do face all of these issues like obesity and heart disease and asthma within Broward County, and that's not a good thing. Maybe there's something we can do with our transportation dollars that can help, maybe not have a direct effect, but an indirect effect on this. Our next challenge relates a lot towards our housing emphasis area. So going back to my original statement that, Broward's not a best kept secret anymore. More people want to come down and visit us. We're expected by the year 2050 to have potentially an additional 330,000 people coming down here. That equates to about 550 people a month until the year 2050. So what do all these people need? They need somewhere to live and they need somewhere to work. And we need to make that connection between work and home something better, more reliable, and efficient and resilient. So, when it comes to housing, we're expecting to have potentially a need for 130,000 more homes. So that's going to create more strain on our transportation network. And you can see from the graphic here, and the average South Florida commuter spends about 79 hours per year in traffic. That's not cute. That's not fun. We really want to make a change in that. Another challenge that we've identified is in our emphasis area for resiliency. And it's no secret to any of us here, South Florida is uniquely positioned in our geographical location to be susceptible to extreme weather events. And that a part of extreme weather events is flooding. And you can see from the images to the right, on the lower area where you see the airport, we had a big flood there. We want to make sure our roadway systems are resilient so that when people are driving, they can have the confidence knowing that they're not going to end up like you see these cars here in that image. They're going to be able to get home safely. To the left, there are two images that you see for the year 2040 and 2070 with some blue highlighted areas. Those represent sea level rise in the year 2040 and into the year 2070. So those darker blue areas are if we do nothing, we're going to have some severe issues to those areas in those dark blue locations. And how do we create a transportation network that can be resilient to that? And then when it comes to technology, I always like to look at this one as a challenge, but also an opportunity. The challenge is that we don't want to get left behind. There's a lot of different things that are coming out very soon. Technology moves so quickly, and we don't want to create a plan that stifles that quick upward movement. We want to have some flexibility in there where we're able to study what's happening and then apply it to our transportation network. So, the challenge would be have flexibility, but it's also the opportunity because once something new comes in, we hopefully will have the systems in place so that we can incorporate it in a beautiful way. So how does Route to 2050 help address all of these challenges? Well, the first thing that we do as part of our our MTP, and this part we probably didn't share with you before, is that we do a call for what's called the call for projects, where we go out to all of our different partners and agencies and all the different municipalities that we have, and we ask them what their current need is. That's without us doing any analysis. It's just going out to them and asking them what their need is. So we collect a lot of different projects, and then we do a needs assessment. And then we reach out to all of y'all as stakeholders, as different stakeholders, to see what y'all's needs are. And we get a full list of projects. We then take all of those different projects and we categorize them into 6 different funding programs that we've set up to hopefully address all of those challenges I showed you earlier. And then we rank and prioritize projects based off of different criteria and factors that we have assigned points to each of the different projects. Once all of that's done, we then create financial plans. So we just go down the list from project rank 1 all the way to 400. And then depending on how much money we can reasonably expect to the year 2050, we start going down that list and funding projects. So that's our process in a nutshell. And then I see Marianne Winfield has joined us. Marianne, hello, thank you so much for joining us. Would you like to introduce yourself to the group? Okay, we'll keep going. So what do our programs look like, and what does that turn into? It turns into what we call our cost feasible plan. So basically all the money that we are saying we have available that are applied to projects is cost feasible, it's fiscally constrained, and we can reasonably expect to get them funded by the year 2050. And we've set that up into 6 different programs. 3 of them are here on the screen right here, and that is technology, complete streets, and safety. Within our technology program, you're going to see projects like EV charging stations. I know when we met with Broward Health, that was something that was of an interest to them. That's something that, hey, maybe they have parking locations that could be converted to EV charging if it was available to the public 24/7. So, you know, there's a little bit of negotiation that we can do with them, but that was something that was a high need, especially for the different shifts of people that are working there. Another type of project that we're working on is called the digital twin. And you're going to hear a little bit more about that from Andrew here. And that essentially is supposed to be like a digital model of Broward County. So we can run real life scenarios very quickly, or even future proposed scenarios. So instead of relying on a model that we usually do every 5 years, that could take up to 30 hours to run, potentially this digital twin could give us results in maybe 2 hours or 2 minutes, depending on how good the technology is. For complete streets, we're going to have projects more like bike lanes, sidewalks, really addressing the safety and public health challenge, getting people to have that modal choice so that they're not so reliant on vehicles, that if they do have that bike that's been sitting in their garage and they didn't have the need for it, now it can be used to go to work or the grocery store. And then safety, which you're going to hear from Fazil, who's here. We have been granted a $5 million grant by the federal government to evaluate all of the safety within Broward County and propose new projects to address some of those hotspots. And some of those challenges that it will address is obviously safety, but also there's some potential technology advances there that we never really thought about. We also have 3 other programs where we're assigning funds to, and that is roadway, transit and hubs, and resiliency. Our roadway program is mostly what you think of when it comes to roadways. So you think about your widening projects, your right turns, your left turns, your overpasses, potentially even some underpasses. Something that we are prioritizing within our plan that we haven't done before is grade separation of railroads. So whether that's the road going underneath the railroad tracks or over the railroad tracks, or maybe the railroad going over the road, we want to create a system that could potentially benefit from removing the trains from pedestrians, vehicles, and bicyclists, so that we avoid those conflict points and improve efficiency for our network. For transit and hubs, I'm sure you guys have heard about Broward County's Primo plan, so their premium transit plan, where they're looking at some really cool new transit technologies that Broward has not had before. And once those projects like light rail, bus rapid transit, and light rail, what's the other one? Light rail transit, bus rapid transit, and high efficiency vehicles. Once those get implemented, we want to propose something that's called a mobility hub that complements those services so that it helps those transit users have those first last mile connections that are safe, enjoyable, things like functional landscaping, so more shade trees, so the transit user who is working maybe has a suit on, they're underneath some shade, they're not so affected by the heat, and they're able to get to their transit stop in a more comfortable way. That's what our mobility hub program is going to be set up like. And then when it comes to resiliency, we've done an evaluation of all of Broward County's roadways, and we have selected the most vulnerable roadways within Broward County to do a resiliency corridor study. So you'll see several of those resiliency corridor studies within our plan that we're going to be evaluating so that all of the different framework and toolbox countermeasures that we have developed can be applied to those projects. And then also to be more resilient, especially to extreme storms, we also have a couple mast arm conversion projects. So those traffic signals that are just hanging there by those little wires, we want to convert those to those stronger mast arm metal poles so that they're more resilient to storms. But how do we fund everything? I know that we did share this graph before, but now this is updated with all of our most recent cost estimates. And what you can see from this graph is there's 3 different funding pots where we can pull money from to fund all of these different projects. The gray piece you see at the bottom are all of the committed investments that we've made in the past. And so these are projects that are currently funded within our transportation improvement program for the next 5 years. And then also projects that may have a phase like design or some construction that fall within those first 5 years that don't have all of their subsequent phases funded just yet. So we need to make sure that we honor those committed projects. So we have to set aside some funding to complete those projects to complete their funding cycle. So that's going to hold a lot of the construction funding. The larger dark blue section, that's dedicated mode specific. And so what that means is FDOT has a big chunk of money that they can spend funds on their strategic intermodal system. So think of things like I-95, I-75, Turnpike, all of those bigger roads that connect like from the airport to the seaport and go regionally outside of the county. That's really where you're going to see a lot of that darker blue money going. And then us at the MPO, what we can control is that lighter blue portion. And unfortunately, that's the smallest piece of our pie. So we have a lot of need and a little bit of money. The next slide, I want you to pay attention to that smaller portion, that 12%, 1.1 billion, because the next slide is going to show you how we're going to disperse that within our different plans and programs. And that's here. So when we think about our 6 funding programs, and then that little sliver of money that we have decided that we are going to dedicate all of those funds to our different programs with these different percentages. So you can see here, Complete Streets is at 51%. So it's going to be the majority of our MPO attributable funds that we have available to us. And that is because that is the highest need that we receive from our community. People want to be able to walk safely, use their bikes, and have better life experience. The other 4 programs, technology, safety, roadway, transit, and hubs, they're distributed almost equally, around 10 to 12%. And then resiliency is over at the end with only 5%. But don't fret, resiliency is very much a priority for us. The reason why we have that program at only 5% is because the majority of the projects that fit within that program are on state facilities. They're mostly a part of FDOT's strategic intermodal system. And if we go back to the slide before, they have a lot of money over there in that dark blue area. So we're going to ask them to fund that with those funds. so that we can spend these lighter blue dollars on some of our other programs. So those are our programs, that's our money, that's where everything's getting funded. I wanted to share with you that we have some upcoming public outreach that we're doing to get more feedback on what our plan looks like so that people can let us know how they feel about the projects that we've proposed. So what we have developed is an interactive map, and if you guys are interested in providing some feedback on some of this projects, you're more than welcome to do so. You can pull out your phones and also scan that QR code. It'll take you to our website for the MTP, which is route22050.org. And you can scroll down to the middle section, and there is a click here button that'll take you to our interactive map, and you can leave comments on the projects. In addition to that, we are going out to the public with some outreach presentations. We are also doing some workshops. We've produced some story maps that you can see on our website, and we also have a virtual meeting room that you can go and explore the different aspects of our plan. Our next steps for the MTP is right now we have a draft on our website, route22050.org. It's on the landing page. We are expected to get adoption in December. So we are going to our technical advisory committee and our citizens advisory committee for endorsement December 4th, and then adoption by our board December 12th. And then once that's adopted, we can start getting rolling with our programs, all of those projects that fit within this program, so we can start doing concept development for all of those projects and start getting them constructed. And so now I'm going to open the floor to questions if anyone has any on our plan.
I have one, Christopher. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sure, this is Mandy. I know it sounds like a lot of the resilience work will be to secure the lights. Has there been any discussion about the roads themselves to prevent flooding, raising the roads, adding drainage along the roads, or any of those types of things, or swales on the sides, or I don't know, softer green space on the sides of the roads? I was just curious if there's anything on the stormwater drainage side.
Absolutely. We do have a couple projects that are in our transportation improvement program right now that address drainage, specifically on A1A and some of the roads that lead to A1A. But the projects that we have identified as the most vulnerable, those are the ones that are going to be populating our resiliency corridor studies. So that's the type of project that's going to be the majority of our resiliency program. And the studies are being done because, we know there's an issue, but what exactly is the issue? So we're going to use those studies as an opportunity to figure out which of our countermeasures that we have developed within our resiliency framework that we can apply to those different roadways. So if you would like to go to our website, route22050.org, and see all the different resiliency studies that we have proposed, and let us know if there's any specific issues we should be looking at. That would be really helpful.
Great pitch. I will just share anecdotally, in downtown Fort Lauderdale, if it rains heavily, I have to leave my office to not get flooded in and to be able to pick up my kids through like that Victoria Park. So between Flagler Village, Victoria Park, the roads do flood on heavy rain days. So, or especially if it's king tide. So just anecdotally, I know it is happening just across the area.
No, that's really good. And one thing that we are, that our executive director has a vision for our digital twin to do more than just traffic modeling, but also to run flooding scenarios potentially. It's still in its infancy, so we're not going to commit anything right now. But potentially we could do scenarios of the different flooding. And if it gets advanced enough, it could potentially get us information of real-time flooding that he would love. I'm not saying it does this right now, but he would love for it to have an option where it could give real-time information to people on their cell phones saying, don't go down these roadways based off of their geographic location. Don't go down these roadways, they're flooded. Use different detours to get around it. But that's like, the high vision that we have that hopefully we can get this going. So mixing a little bit of our technology with our resiliency program.
Chris, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I know we spoke, first of all, great presentation, a really good overview of what you guys are doing. I see a lot of work went into this so far.
Thank you.
We spoke during some of our conversations earlier in the year about smart intersections and the safety in the intersections and getting fiber out throughout the county. What is the plan so far as of today?
Yeah, so we held interviews with both Broward County and with FDOT to figure out what their fiber plans were, so that, you know, when we're doing investments on some of these major roadways, they only need to get dug up once. FDOT has provided us with their fiber plan as specific projects for us to include within our technology program, and they're under the lens of TSM&O. A lot of the TSM&O projects there are those fiber projects. So if you review the plan on route2050.org, you can click on the draft, scroll all the way down to our technology program, and you can see the limits of where those projects are being proposed. A lot of them are your typical roadways. So you have like your Broward Boulevard, Commercial Boulevard. So they're proposing to make those kinds of different investments on those roadways.
Excellent, thank you.
I have a quick question, Christopher. So just looking at all the folks, and thank you everyone for joining us today, but I see quite a few faces that are focused on housing. And so I was wondering, since we are, adding housing as an emphasis area for this MTP, if you could maybe talk about not just housing, but the other emphasis areas as well, how having those is changing the way that we're planning for transportation.
Yeah, well, for the housing one, it's something that we've always indirectly planned for, but never actually planned for. So this has thrown us for a little bit of a loop for us to get a little bit more creative with how we do things. And so we've talked about potentially including it in different ways of how we plan and prioritize our projects. So beefing up the different criteria that we use to rank projects. And what that means is we need to come up with different data sources for us to do that. Because right now we have like proxies to housing. So we have things like, do projects support activity centers where people need to go, like banks, schools, grocery stores? Do projects are they connected to transit stops? So it's all different things, but it's not specifically housing. But we do have employment centers that we use. And we also use census data where we look at where are all the different households located within Broward. But we can do better. And that's why we have a housing coordination plan that Karen Friedman's going to talk about in a little bit, so that we can really take a deep dive and really figure out how we can spend our transportation dollars better to make people get those connections to where they need to go. But more on that in the future. By the year, by our Route to 2055, our next MTP update, we'll be able to integrate that a little bit more. For the other three emphasis areas, resiliency, safety, and technology, those are things that we've been thinking about for a while now, and now we have projects that we think hit all of those challenges very well. Except for resiliency, we're still working on that. We're still getting those resiliency corridor studies done so we can really pinpoint issues. But it's new stuff, but it's also stuff we thought about before.
Where can I find the list of the resiliency studies? So I'm looking at the website and I'm not able to find it.
Sure. You know what? Let's go down that adventure together. So you're going to go to route2050.org. And then you go to our website and you scroll down to this blue area here. And it says draft Route to 2050 MTP. Click here. And it'll take you to our website. And then you're going to scroll all the way to chapter 7. So in the table of contents, you can see chapter 7 funding. So page 111.
Okay.
And then here, it'll give you an overview of basically a lot of what we talked about in the presentation today. But then you're going to get these, get to this section where it goes through all of the different projects within each program. And before you do that, you're you're going to have these program dashboard pages that give you an overview of the program itself. So the total number of projects, the total amount of funding, and then a map with all the different locations. So for resiliency, you're going to scroll until you get to page 145. All of the projects that we have proposed are going to be highlighted with those purple lines within the map. And then you can go down to the different project pages themselves. Always scroll down, yeah, down here. So here we have some resiliency studies located on this page. So we have I-75, I-95. They're probably more on the top. Yeah. Yeah, and you can go through the pages at your leisure and enjoy scrolling through all the different projects that we have located in our plan. Yeah, so Atlantic Boulevard.
So for some of these studies, are they identifying areas that are vulnerable to flooding? I'm just thinking with the districts, our water control system obviously goes all throughout Broward County, and there's interactions between the roadways and our flood control.
Yeah, so the determination for us to figure out what the vulnerability of these projects, we relied on 4 different stressors. One is a sea level rise, the other is precipitation and storm surge. The other and flooding falls within that category. Then we have groundwater and extreme heat. So all of those 4 stressors together go into an equation. It creates a score. And then we also use equity as something that we inputted as part of that score so that everything's getting distributed to, fairly. And those are what create the most vulnerable corridors for our resiliency program.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so let's go on to the next part of our webinar, and that is going to be our MPO lightning round. So I'm going to hand this over to Andrew. Actually, I'm going to be controlling this the slides still. But Andrew, if you would like to introduce yourself and then get started on Smart Metro.
Thank you, Christopher. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andrew Riddle. I'm the Community Planning Manager at the Broward MPO, and I'm here to speak to you about 2 of our transformative projects. One is Smart Metro, and the other one is electric vehicle charging. So next slide, please. Broward MPO was recently awarded a $2 million U.S. Department of Transportation Stage 1 discretionary grant. It's called Strengthening Mobility and Revolutionizing Transportation, or SMART, to create a proof of concept of Smart Metro. And Smart Metro is an exciting digital twin platform powered by our artificial intelligence, or AI. With Smart Metro, we're building a virtual representation of Broward County to make planning, investing, and decision-making smarter and more holistic. Smart Metro uses AI and analytics to explore different scenarios and predict future outcomes. It pulls together data and models into one central platform, making it easier to optimize time and resources. And also it compares various options. We can make sure our investments have the highest benefit for our communities and also most efficient use of our federal and state and local investments. Our Smart Metro goal is very simple: to create a stronger, more efficient, and equitable future for everyone in our region. Next slide, please. So as most of you are aware, our region is dealing with some big challenges, things like extreme weather. We have hazards, resiliency hazards, rising housing costs, safety with extremely large number of crashes, fatalities, and serious injuries, traffic congestion, and a growing population in our region. These issues make it tough to plan effectively, especially with the limited single-purpose data and models we currently use. 5 years ago, we started exploring how AI could reshape the way we live and also our industry. We saw that we could help shape how advanced analytics and AI can change our region for the better if it's used properly and also collaboratively with all of our regional partners. Next slide, please. So the digital twin will help us answer critical questions like what's happening now. The data exchange gives us a baseline inventory and understanding of infrastructure across Broward. What could happen in the future is our analytics toolkit. The digital twin, AI, and its advanced analytics can help us understand our infrastructure needs and evaluate before and after potential investments. And also in the simulation models, this is what plan, project, or policy is most effective. This is the user experience or the UX in a 3D environment. The digital twin will allow us to compare scenarios, determine which best serves residents and is most cost effective. Next slide, please. So we can't create this on our own, of course. We have key grant partners who will play a major role in making this possible. The Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations, or AMPO, includes MPOs around the country that are committed to developing this platform. We have 17 across the country on board with us at this moment, and the list is kind of growing. Also, Broward County Public Schools and the Museum of Discovery and Science are engaged as partners in workforce development for the next generation of leaders in our industry. The city of Miramar is engaged with us on a use case located at its Innovation and Technology Village near 441 and Miramar Parkway. And of course, our federal partners with the US DOT's Office of the Secretary of Transportation and Research, the SMART Grant Program. Their scientists and experts are working alongside us as we develop our Smart Metro Digital Twin platform. So we're very excited to embark on this journey to develop Smart Metro over the next year, and we're eager to showcase our outcomes and with our partners and our communities, and also to position us to scale the proof of concept with the Stage 2 grant. That Stage 2 grant will allow us to be awarded up to $15 million for each project to scale the proof of concept. So we're really excited to get this started. We are kicking off the project in early December, so stay tuned. We do have a project website on the MPO website if you would like to stay engaged. And I know some of you on the call are being engaged for our data and how we can collaborate. So we'll move on to electric vehicles. Next slide, please. All right, so we can go to the next slide. The Broward MPO recently developed an electric vehicle master plan. The EV master plan is about creating a positive impact across 3 key areas. The first one is environmental impact. We are committed to reducing harmful emissions and supporting a cleaner future for our communities. Electric vehicles play a major role in cutting down pollution and moving us closer to a more sustainable region. Second, cost savings. After the upfront cost of the actual purchase of an EV, EVs are generally cheaper to operate and maintain, helping EV owners save money over time. And finally, and most importantly, federal investment. The bipartisan infrastructure law allocated $7.5 billion to expand America's electric vehicle charging network. And with this EV master plan, we are strategically positioned our region to access these federal dollars to improve our infrastructure and lead the way towards an electric, sustainable future. Next slide, please. So some quick stats. Florida is second only to California in EV ownership. Broward County has the second most EVs in Florida, second only to Miami-Dade, and 37% of all Florida EVs are registered within our Tri-County area of Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade counties. Next slide. So there are close to 30,000 battery electric vehicles registered in Broward County. That's only about 2% of all registered vehicles. But as we feel in the changing times and becoming more affordable and accessible to people, that percentage is expected to increase significantly. On this map, you can see where the highest concentration of EV registrations are in blue, and where the lowest were that are in the dark orange of registrations. Next slide, please. So the master plan focused its along the federally designated alternatives fuel corridors, which will add 20 new EV charging stations throughout the county with a total of 339 charging ports. These locations are strategically located at tri-rail parking rides and key east-west corridors along 441. These stations will add 60 new direct current or DC fast chargers, 133 level 2, which are the fast chargers, and 146 e-bike chargers. The MPO recently submitted a federal grant requesting about $18 million, which, if it's awarded, would fully fund Broward's clean energy charging expansion, or the CC is what we call it, and our EV master plan. We're anticipated to hear announcements for the awards in early 2025. So please stay tuned, and hopefully we can get some charging stations out throughout Broward County with this grant. So thank you all, and I'll turn it over to Christopher.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. So before we get into questions for that, we're gonna move into the Broward Safety Action Plan that Fazil Qureshi is going to walk us through. So Fazil, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah. So my name is Fazil Qureshi. I'm a senior engineer here at the Broward MPO, and I'm the core project manager for the Broward Safety Action Plan. This action plan is being funded through the Safe Streets and Roads for All discretionary grant program. That was part of the transportation bill. Next slide, please. So the BSAP. So the Broward MPO and Broward County in partnership were awarded a $5 million Safe Streets and Roads for All grant to develop a safety action plan for the region. Broward County provided the $1.25 million local match that we needed in order to suffice the requirements of the grant. The goal of the plan will be to achieve 0 deaths and serious injuries by a given year, which is to be determined as part of our process. And we are expected to go in front of our Broward MPO board in 2025 for adoption. The 3 main outcomes of the plan will be creating an action plan with very well-defined goals of how we're going to achieve our goal year, identifying projects that are ready to move forward towards implementation, and to identify policies and programs that will assist us to make safety ingrained in any of the transportation investments that we make in the region. Next slide. Why we're doing this plan, is it really necessary? Well, there's 5,716 people, and from 2018 to 2022, that may beg to differ with that. That's how many people were either killed or seriously injured on Broward County roadways. That accounts for about $14.2 billion of economic cost to our society. That's $14.2 billion that could have been used for other types of services that can really help complement our existing needs to make our community safer and whatnot. Those killed and serious injury crashes, we're specifically focusing on them. They account for 2% of all the crashes that occur countywide, but they equate to 61% of that economic damage. So in terms of return on investment, if we're able to eliminate those 2%, that's $14 billion that we can free up for other uses. Next slide. So how can you get involved? Please visit our website at www.safestreets4broward.org, or you can scan the QR code on the top right-hand side of the screen. You can take our safety pledge. You can point out safety concerns that you're aware of that we necessarily might not be aware of in the county. You can do a dedication for someone you may know that had passed away in a traffic crash on Broward County roadways. And you can also join us for one of our public meetings. Our next round of public meetings will be next year around February. And you can always contact us at ss4a@browardmpo.org. And this quote on the side from Walt Disney, this really helps illustrate what we're trying to do with this plan. We're not trying to just make this plan a plan, we're trying to make it actionable. And that way, once we get the plan adopted by our MPO board, we can actually, begin improving safety and do something about it. Next slide, Christopher. And thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Basil. And so we've saved the best for last. No, just kidding. Yes. We have Ms. Karen Friedman. Would you like to please introduce yourself?
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Karen Friedman. I'm a senior planner here at the Broward MPO, and I will be leading the Broward MPO's first housing coordination plan. So next slide, please. To give you some basic information about this effort, it's being funded through our 2-year planning budget. We're going to be having consultant support. We're going to be, the goal is to create an actual housing coordination plan, though that plan will then be adopted into the MTP that is being adopted in this December. So it'll be an amendment into that document. And we're really fortunate because we're going to be able to utilize all of the data that was collected and assessed as part of the Broward County Affordable Housing Master Plan, and also for the needs assessment. And then Broward County on an ongoing basis maintains the Affordable Housing Dashboard. So we've already been gathering information from our partners at Broward County for this effort. And we have 3 distinct outcomes. First of all, to build upon all the work that was done by Broward County, and I know Dr. Murray is participating today in his group that they did with developing the Affordable Housing Master Plan, but also the work also done previously by us through our Vision 2100, as well as Broward County Transit with the Primo Plan. The second thing is to develop regional goals to better integrate housing, transportation, and economic development strategies, and that's consistent with federal regulations. And finally, similar to what Basil said, this is intended to be an action-oriented plan. So while we will be developing goals and objectives, the whole purpose is to identify projects and strategic investment opportunities to really make a dent on the county's affordable housing crisis. Next slide. And so some of this I kind of just touched on, which is, while this is new for the Broward MPO to be developing a housing coordination plan, we ourselves as the Broward MPO, as well as many of our partners, have been talking about the alignment with transportation and housing for a while. We made commitments to that in Vision 2100, which was prepared by the Broward MPO about 5 years ago. And it talked about the only way to really manage growth here in Broward County and to manage congestion is to really invest into strategic corridors. Of course, you heard me talk about the Broward County Affordable Housing Master Plan and its 10-year vision for addressing the crisis that we're in. And then also building upon what's just been the work that's been completed through the MTP and issues such as the housing route marker. Next slide. So this slide, it's our schedule for the housing coordination plan, and I included it in here because I thought it would help everyone who's participating in today's meeting understand the timeline, but also understand what our milestones are going to be for the housing coordination plan. So right now, the second bar is the stakeholder involvement. As you see, that goes through the life of this effort through June 2026. Right now, we've identified when we'll be presenting to our Resilience and Affordable Housing Committee, as well as our Technical Advisory Committee. But I anticipate over the next month, we're going to be filling in more of this bar with meetings scheduled with representatives of Broward County, with representatives of various stakeholders from the affordable housing community and other folks interested in this topic. So we'll be seeing that gray line fill up a lot. Under data collection and assessment, what you'll see is a yellow circle with the SWG, and that's our internal Broward MPO staff working group, and that's our decision makers. Important in March is when we're going to have our report card so we can better understand how Broward MPO's prior investments have maybe impacted the affordable housing situation we see ourselves in. You can see the timeline for best practices, potential strategies, and then our final recommendations being delivered in October of 2025 so that the draft plan would come back to staff in early 2026. And I believe that's the end of my presentation.
And Karen, there was a quick question from Sandra
Sure.
regarding the South Florida Regional Planning Council and if they're being engaged for the second outcome.
So we have actually had communication with them. They've presented to our Resilience and Affordable Housing Committee. So we do anticipate we will also be reaching out to them. I know they've been undertaking a study that's been more led in terms of what can the business community do in terms of moving the needle on affordable housing. To be honest, we are working on our stakeholder engagement plan right now. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks to a month, we'll have a better idea of filling in, as I said, a lot more organizations on that stakeholder involvement line.
Well, thank you so much, Karen. So understanding we have just about 3 minutes left in our meeting. Does anyone have any questions for our last 3 presenters on any of their topics? Smart Metro, EV charging, our Safe Streets for All grant, or our housing coordination plan? Okay, well, if no questions, we do have 2 questions here, and it's more for us to think about for y'all when you go back to your offices, now that you've heard more about what we're doing at the Broward MPO. And if there's anything that you would like to provide us as far as feedback as we go on to continue to do more of these plans or start implementing our Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Is there anything new that's coming up while you're working? We want to continue to be in communication with all of y'all as things come up. We want to be able to still be a liaison for you to help get your priorities funded. So if there's anything new that's coming up in transportation as far as challenges that the people that you're interacting with, that you serve, is there anything that's coming up? Please let us know. And then also, please let us know if there's any opportunities, not just the challenges, but maybe there's something that's coming up in your studies, your analysis, and you think, oh, maybe I can engage the Broward MPO. Maybe there's a project that they have on the horizon that could help our communities out. So if there's anything that you have now that you'd like to share, absolutely, or just keep those 2 questions with you, and please engage with us at any time.
Would it be possible to get a copy of this presentation?
Absolutely. Yes, we could do that.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll just say thank you all so much for spending the hour with us and hope to continue to keep the communication on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.